Now we're grinning. Yeah, we'll just wait around a few more classic minutes here in the beginning. But what's up, y'all? Good to have you on board. And whenever the time is right. So, um, mm, yeah, we'll get there, and I'll just cut out the beginning. It'll be fine. Morning or good evening. Yeah. Yeah, again, send me a hello message when you're on board. It'd be great. Yeah, and we'll again, as usual, wait a good 5 minutes here and so forth. But mm, another beautiful day in Vietnam. Yeah, wonderful Monday. Time to get the ball rolling. Yep. Um. So yeah, again, we'll just wait a little bit here. Um. Mm-hmm. Again, 4 or 5 minutes here. We'll get there. So while we're waiting in the beginning here, kind of general updates. Yep. Life continues to kick ass here in Vietnam as usual. Just went to a funeral last week. That was super interesting. Getting a chance to see their traditions, what colors they use, what kind of tea they have, what kind of food they provide or lack thereof. And fun fact, when it comes to a funeral, yeah, they do it overnight. Well, it's a 5-day ordeal, and people can show up whenever they want. But more to the point, the final day when they actually move the body to the actual cemetery. In this case, oh man, people stay awake all night long, which means they from let's say 8 o'clock at night all night long. They drink and eat and hang out and have tea, and in some cases nap, and otherwise get ready for 4 a.m. Because come 4 a.m., yep, that's when the pallbearers show up and ultimately load up the casket into the truck and actually take off with the truck. So, yeah, it really is something interesting to see, and definitely interesting to be part of. And yeah, my first funeral that I got a chance to see here in Vietnam. So, um, yeah, I love it. I love it. Interestingly, too, they have a really interesting way of dressing. For example, family members of the deceased actually wear like the white garment over the rest of their clothes. So you might, if you Google it, like a Vietnam funeral, you'll see what I mean when it comes to again wearing white here like this. And it's neat too because let's say the sons and daughters of the deceased have a special insignia, on their back, and an insignia on each one of their shoulders on the right and left. And whereas the grandchildren of the deceased will actually just have a single symbol on their back, whereas the great grandchildren on the father's side will all be wearing gold, and on the mother's side will all be wearing red. Whereas the great great grandchildren will be wearing purple. So it's really interesting when you go to a Vietnamese funeral. You can just look at the crowd and know exactly who is who. And that makes it really different, but also really interesting and really convenient when it comes to, yeah, knowing who's who. And I think back to an American funeral and I think to myself, gosh, we're definitely not that clear or certainly not that overt about it. So in order to find out who is the deceased, or who is the survivors, of the deceased, yeah, in a lot of cases, you've got to more or less ask everybody or see who's standing where or something like that. So it really does make it quite interesting. And I love it, to be honest. In American funerals, we also tend to wear black, let's just say. And, it tends to be the defining feature of it all. And yeah, in Vietnam, it's white. Go figure. The men wear tall white headbands, whereas the women wear short, small headbands that are tied in the back. So it's really highly traditional and highly regimented in that regard. And yeah, it's cool. It's cool. But going to a funeral is not something that you would normally see on online. Like if you type into Google what's funeral etiquette, you may or may not get some appropriate answers, by the time we're done. So that's kind of where it helps talking to a guy like myself, or it helps to actually go to one, ask Vietnamese people once you're here, that kind of thing. Because again, to know the guidelines and the etiquette in general, is a really important step. So, yeah, let's get rolling. Using this funeral and traditions in Vietnam for a funeral, in contrast to American style funeral, is a really great starting point. What I mean by that is, what's right, what's not right, what's polite, what's not polite. Well, you're playing by a different playbook. You're playing with a different set of rules. And this is definitely going to be true from all of these different angles that I'm going to want to talk about here today. And, to answer like bigger questions, who is more polite? Western society, America, Japan, or Vietnam? That's an interesting question because it's a hard one to answer. It's a really hard one to answer. Here's some examples. One could argue that Vietnam or Japanese society is ultra polite because of their quantity of rules that they have. For example, when you're in Japan, you have to only eat with your chopsticks with your right hand. Set it down on your chopstick holder, in between bites or mid conversation. Never talk with your mouth full. Certainly would never smoke at the table. And it would be less common to sit and slam a whole bunch of beers one after another. And so forth. And there's hundreds and hundreds of eating rules when you go to Japan. Well, does that mean that Japan is more polite? Maybe. That's probably true. But here's a contrasting way of looking at it. If you break a lot of these rules, the Japanese people are going to secretly hate you. And they're going to secretly, oh, what a fool, ha, 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 something like that. Well, all of a sudden, it's the least polite society you've ever been to. In other words, perhaps a normal Westerner with walking in blindly is going to embarrass himself. And they're going to be made fun of and otherwise disliked by the Japanese people. And they're going to be seen as an outsider. Now, is it the most polite society? You're going to think the opposite. Well, okay, so let's take this idea a little bit further. When we're sitting here in Vietnam, I could look at a lot of things as, is it more polite or less polite? It really comes down to perspective. But once again, I'm going to kind of let you decide, as far as that goes. So also, but here in the beginning, got to say, a fish does not know that it's wet. Okay, let's start there. A fish doesn't know that it's wet. You would think a fish would be an expert on water, among other things, but really, a fish does not know it's wet, and a fish cannot explain water to you, even though it lives there all of its life, because a fish has never been dry. A fish has never been out of the water, generally speaking. Similarly, a fish can't teach you to swim, because a fish just, think about going over there, you're there. Right. If you were to sit down and ask an American person, hey, tell me all the rules of etiquette in America. Be polite, I guess. Don't be rude. It's going to sound vague, because whenever you're talking about etiquette, politeness, and so forth, as always, what compared to what? So when we talk about etiquette in Vietnam, really what we're talking about is, what are the differences? What compared to what? Vietnam compared to let's say, American culture, which is obviously what I'm going to underscore here today, because that's the most relevant. Now we got some a decent starting point, to kind of work from here. So, and what I'm about to talk about here are general guidelines and broader ways of thinking about it. If you do want a really nifty kind of a cheat sheet, so to speak, and I'm going to be working from this, I'll put a link right here. If you just want a quick answer and just bang, 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 list it all out, this is an excellent starting point. I've looked at a lot of lists of etiquette and politeness and so forth, and a lot of them are either vague or wrong or misleading or incomplete. This list, it's not everything, but it's a good starting point and covers a good, majority of what I'm about to talk about here. Obviously, there's way more to it than this, way more. And the other issue that you run into when you look online is a lot of tips are going to be recycled, which means one person put this set of tips, another person put this set of tips, and all of a sudden they just copy, paste, put it on their blog for clickbait. Okay, they're not wrong, but again, it's incomplete, and often it's written by people who haven't actually lived here. So, here's where I come in. All right, so okay, let's kind of start from the beginning. Greetings and getting to know people right away. Well, I wanted to mention this: handshakes. Okay, okay, the handshake game. The handshake game. Once you realize that this is a game everyone's playing, then it gets a lot easier to grasp and hang on to. The game goes like this. Whoever shakes the most hands and offers the most handshakes wins. Yep. It's an unspoken game that everybody's playing. They shake hands like bastards, in Vietnam, like you've never shaken hands in your life, okay? You got to imagine like you've got cancer, you've got some sort of terminal illness, and the only cure is shaking hands. If you think about it in this way, you're doing great. So, what are the ways that people try to up their handshake count? Well, first of all, when you show up at a table of people, let's just say there's 6, 7, 8 Vietnamese people all sitting around. You get to put 7, 8 of them in the bank, right off the bat. Yeah, absolutely. Show up, handshake, 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 8. Yes. And you'll often find that every person that shows up to the table will handshake with every single person. They're playing the handshake game. And on top of all this, people will actually go around a restaurant and actually shake hands with as many people as possible. That means literally a person at a restaurant, a Vietnamese person at a restaurant, will grab their cup and then we'll go to a random table of people who are sitting around drinking anyway and xin mai, and put their little hand underneath their elbow, offer a little cheers with everybody. Xin mai, please let me invite. And let's see, I'll write it for you in Vietnamese. I can't do it with Unikey, but yeah, they're going to say Sin Mai. And yep, they're going to, cheers with everybody. You know what happens next? Hand on the elbow. Shake hand, shake hand, shake hand, shake hand, shake hand. All right, 6 more handshakes. Got it. And sometimes they're going to double down. What that means is they'll show up with a cup, Sin Mai, and then get 6 handshakes in, and then cheers with everybody, and then do 6 more. All right, we got 12 for the price of 6. Yep. And then they'll often sit back down, pour out another cup, and Kung, thank you, buddy. Hey, Kung, good to see you this morning. Sen Mai. So it's got the hook on it. Oh, with the little chin out. Sen Mai. Yeah. Now, and by the way, Kung, you got to correct me where I'm wrong, man. I'm just coming from the perspective of an American guy in Vietnam for several years. So again, I sincerely look forward to corrections, but yeah, the handshake game, it is amazing. So yeah, you find this in a lot of different places, but especially when eating and drinking. Now, a lot of these tips that I'm going to be talking about are focused on eating and drinking because Vietnamese people do that a lot, way more than American people, like 5 times more. Like every day. They go out for coffee, drinks, food, or all three. Or go to somebody's house with coffee, food, drinks, and handshakes. So, this is a really big deal. I'm going to keep saying it. They handshake a lot. And then when they do handshake, they dwell and hang there because there's another game. How long can you keep handshaking? Literally for 2 minutes, I've had a guy hold my hand. Well, have a good day. You too. All right. Well, I'll see you soon. Yep. You too, buddy. All right. So anyway, keep eating, Brad. Okay. And I try to eat with my other free hand. Shake, shake, shake. Well, I'm going to go to work now. All right. Hopefully your wife is doing good. Shake, 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 shake. A minute goes by. It's like, wow, they love handshake. Yeah. Now to flip the script a little bit, I did want to mention that there's women are going to be treated differently than men by quite a bit. In particular, women will handshake, but usually just once, in the beginning, or maybe once at a goodbye at most. They're not going to be as crazy about it as dudes are. And beyond that, an older Vietnamese traditional, yep, bat thai, bat thai. Yeah, thanks, Kung. So vai thai is to wave, and bat thai is to shake. Oh yeah, but I call it bat thai. Anyway, there's a lot of women that will, how do we say it? Their traditional culture is that of not touching anybody. To say it a different way, they won't hug. They may not even shake hands. It's just no physical contact. That's just their politeness. So if you imagine like, an ultra traditional gal in an ao yai with a polite bow to everybody, that's where they're coming from. So actually, it would be sort of rude, believe it or not, if there's a grandma of some kind, right when you say, "Oh, hello, grandma, ciao ba," shake hand. It's going to put her in an awkward position because out of politeness, she's going to not shake your hand. But that's also rude to not shake your hand and then leave you hanging. She's not going to have time to describe to you that I'm not the kind of person that, traditionally speaking, otherwise shakes hands. I do appreciate your gesture, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Thank you, Kung. That's right. That's right. The happier they are, the longer they shake your hand. So if you're drinking a case of beer with everybody together, guess what happens next? Good call. And again, So I encountered this with talking with the wonderful Miss Mai, who's an older Vietnamese gal. I shook her hand and she did give me like an awkward once, but she was kind enough to explain to me that's not my thing. I don't want to seem rude or cold, but we don't do that. So definitely draw that distinction between men and women. Now, in Western culture, we tend to group men and women somewhat together, in a lot of ways, especially in a business context. How much do men and women drink respectively? About the same. How much do they shake hands? About the same. How much do they hug? About the same. But in Vietnam, that's not true. So let's bear that all in mind, So while we're talking about like public things, greeting, affection, and so forth, I did want to say that hugs are reserved for best friends, like really best friends, and family. So yeah, by all means, if you're at a family reunion and your family's coming in, or you're at a wedding and the family's coming in, to do the one handshake and then a one arm hug thing, that's a thing, definitely. With my mother and father, or my in-laws rather, yep, that's definitely a thing, and that's okay. That's cool. With total strangers, let alone with women, no, I wouldn't hug them. Not out of rudeness. It's just, that's too close, so to speak. Now, similarly, like kissing, for example, I'll kiss my wife on the cheek publicly. But that's about it. That's about as far as we would go. And I would hug her, definitely. but it wouldn't go ridiculously farther than that necessarily. I bring this up because this is a very sharp contrast to, let's say, South American culture, Mexican culture, Italian culture, in some cases, French culture. So in a lot of areas in the West, it would be reasonable to give a hug. Like, I've had this happen. Give a hug, kiss in the right cheek. A dude and dude, kiss in the right cheek, kiss in the left cheek, hug, stand back, shake hands. Round two, hug again, kiss, 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 pat on the shoulder, look in the eyes, shake hands. All right, now I said my hello. Yeah. That's the thing in a lot of areas. Less so in Vietnam. They just stick with a handshake only thing. Now, in Mexican culture, even when meeting somebody, it would be reasonable to either kiss them on the cheek directly, a total stranger, or just make the mouth sound, and pucker, on each side. Kind of like a half kiss, if you will. Yep, totally polite. And if you don't do that, it's rude. So who's more polite, Mexico or Vietnam? I can't really say, but it is interesting, again, how different they are. So that's when talking about greetings and stuff like that, face-to-face kind of things, this is a really important and fun idea to kind of underscore. Now, if we switch over to talking on the phone, and Kung, you can confirm this. If we switch over to talking on the phone, it's a little bit different. Yeah. Thank you, Kung. Yeah, kiss a dude a few times, you might get an elbow, right? That's right. So the one thing that's a little bit different, on the phones here, and I think this has to do with brevity or Occam's razor or saving money on phone, world or whatever. People are really brisk, curt, fast on the phone. In other words, they want to talk as quickly as possible and get off the phone as quickly as possible. And yep, phone calls under 60 seconds is their goal. 30 seconds is even better. Now, this is cool and it makes sense, and I kind of like it, as a matter of fact. But this is a sharp contrast to America, a very sharp contrast, and in general. Specifically, here's what I mean by that. Yep, exactly right. Thank you, Kung. They want to save money because traditionally, phone calls are billed by the minute and they're rounded up. So if your phone call is 61 seconds long, you got to pay for 2 minutes instead of 1. Right. Now, also traditionally speaking, phone calls, if you can bang it out in 30 seconds, then it's faster than trying to text on a T9 phone, and it, historically speaking, costs less than a text message. Plus, a lot of people generally didn't look at their own text messages. On top of all of that, voicemail is not a thing in Vietnam. Okay, I want to underscore this. So what that means is it would be reasonable to call a person 5 times until you get a hold of them. So and even then, after they called for the 5th time, you're on the phone for 20 seconds and then you're done. So this is this is weird for me from an American starting point. And let me demonstrate. From an American standpoint, even if I'm calling my auto repair guy, basically it would sound like this in America to some degree. Okay. It'd be like, oh, hi, they would pick up the phone. Hello, Napa Auto Parts. This is Tom. Hello there, Tom. This is Brad. I called earlier to see if the part arrived and if it has been installed on my car yet. Did you get a chance to take a look at that? Oh, yay, Brad. Thanks for calling. And yes, we did. Oh, it's been working out great. So you're welcome to come by and pick it up anytime that you'd like. Oh, well, thank you, Tom. Yeah, you guys are open for a while, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it's reasonable. How's your wife doing? Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Well, Yeah, thanks for everything, Tom. I'll look forward to seeing you then. You too. All right, man. All right, bye now. Bye. See ya. Okay, 3 minutes. No, that's not how Vietnamese phone calls work at all. In Vietnam, it would be more like, if I just say it in English, it'd be like, yeah, done yet? Yep. Click. 6 seconds. Done. Yep, that's how they work. Now, this might seem rude. Like when I first was here in Vietnam, I thought it was rude. Like, that's like a slap in the face. You didn't even say hello. You didn't ask how I'm doing. You didn't confirm names. You didn't give any extra information here. You're almost like a robot or some darn thing, you know? And it was almost offensive as far as I was concerned. And when people don't say goodbye, you know, on a phone, I'm like, that's like a slap in the face, you know, in American culture to not even say goodbye, just hang up on somebody. Ooh-wee. I've broken up, I've ended relationships because they hung up on me. Yeah. But in Vietnam, pretty much everyone hangs up on everybody. So yes, when my wife was on the phone, sometimes her phone will ring and she hears her on her end. Yeah. Yeah. Beep. Who was that? What happened? Oh no, that was the blah, blah, blah. You know, that was the hotel calling to make sure the confirmation of the guest number 7 was going to be there this morning. And then I otherwise mentioned that yes, she is. Yeah, that's how it is. So you got to be ready for that when you come to Vietnam. That phones and phone calling, you know, and something like that. Yep. Yeah. If they set something like 10-minute calling with 1,000 dong, they'll try to talk 10 minutes. Right. Now phones are cheaper these days than they have been traditionally. So that's cool. But the fact remains, you know, this cultural idea of being brief and quick is still a thing. Even though, again, phones are the equivalent of 4 cents a minute or something like that. Fact remains. Fact remains. Now we've got some odd etiquette things like that in Western culture as well. Like to underscore a contrast here, in Western culture, especially with millennials, it's quite an idea to text somebody first before calling them. I don't know why, but I appreciate that. I mean, I might be doing something in a meeting, hanging with other people, on the phone for that matter, busy or whatever. So yeah, if a person texts me first, you know, hey Brad, are you available? Can I call you? And I'll say, yeah, I'm available right now, or I'll call them back immediately, or catch me in 35 minutes. I'll be ready at 7:45, whatever the case is. That's cool. Does not work like that in Vietnam. No way. I don't think I've ever been texted first to ask if they can call me. Nope. So yeah, get ready for that. And because of the no voicemail thing, it's reasonable for people like, oh, the phone didn't ring, well, he might have missed me or whatever, so they're going to recall back like 4 or 5 times in a row. In America, that would be super rude, but in Vietnam, it's pretty normal. You know, oh, maybe he was on the phone with someone last time. Oh, I'll try him again. You know, so anyway, yep, kind of remember all these ideas. So no, um, let's switch over to something else here. It kind of changes subject a little bit. Restaurants and Quans. Okay. Oh yeah. Thank you, Kung. Yeah, you're right. Technology has changed now. Mostly because Facebook is free and data is darn near free. And yes, you can not only do leave Facebook voicemails, but also you can just hit the record button and blah blah blah, blah really quick. To be fair, I've never gotten a Facebook voice message from a Vietnamese person ever in years. Although it does exist, yes. Normally they just either send me a quick texted message afterwards or they just keep trying. But yes, thank you. It is more of a thing now. Historically speaking, voicemail was never a thing in Vietnam, so it's still just starting to take off, so to speak. But anyway. Okay, man, this is such a hard word to spell. Restaurants. Okay, restaurants and quants. Now, Kuhn, you may or may not agree with me, and you may have your own ideas about this. I'm just talking based on my own perspective. Now, restaurants in general. Let's remember that there's quite a gradient in terms of restaurants. For example, you do have your high end. Uh, hey, Blake, buddy, good to see you, my friend. Good timing too, man. Always wonderful having you. But yeah, just talking about restaurants and stuff like that. Yeah, of course you've got your top end sort of thing, which is to say, it's called like le creme brulee. It's got a French owner. It's going to be cloth tablecloths. Comfortable chairs with cushions on them that are higher than your knee, and cloth napkins. That kind of thing. Sure, you've got that range of restaurants by all means. Oh, okay. Well, sounds great there, Blake. Yeah, good timing. Well, you could grab this or get a firsthand practical way of thinking then in this case, huh? Now, going down from there a little bit, we still got our restaurant world, which is to say, it's called a nyahang. And maybe Kuang, you could type it out for me. Again, my Unikey isn't working right now. Nyahang, which is going to, again, be a restaurant style or whatever. Now, below that is, or next to it is the Quan, Quan. Now, we don't really have a word for this in English exactly, although I would translate it as eatery or diner. Yeah, nyahang. Thank you, Kung. That is restaurant, as we would normally define like fancier kind of restaurant. And then Quan would be, again, like eatery or diner. Now, there's a few distinctions when it comes to a Quan in general, and I'm talking 90% of the time in general. Here's some characteristics of a Quan. First of all, you're probably going to have plastic chairs and furniture most of the time, over 90%. I better write this. Come on, Unikey. Meow. There we go. Here we go. Now we're getting there. Yep. Thank you. Oh man, still not smiling. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Quanyao. And then the A has a hat on it with it. Yep, there it is with a dot below it. Thank you, Kung. Yeah, but either way, this is designed specifically to be like the best I can define now is meow is eatery drinkery. Yeah, Quan Yao. Yep, eatery drinkery. Basically, you could think about it like yes, they've got a full menu of food. In a lot of cases, it could be like bar food. So it's going to be spicier, saltier, brighter. You might get your mixed vegetables for sure. Mi sao ball, which would be like noodles and beef mixed together. You're going to have a bunch of different egg recipes, omelets maybe. The fetus duck eggs, you're going to have that among other things. And yeah, these are terrific. Now, a few other differentiations when it comes to a Quan is smoking. Yep. Pretty much all the time you can smoke all you want, in a Quan. That may not be true all the time in all restaurants, but in a Quan, for sure. I've never been to a Quan where you can't. Thus, a lot of people have smokes at the table. And yes, the restaurant typically sells them along the way. When you get, of course, you never have milk there. Yeah, that's right. I don't think I ever have had a milk at the. No good story started with the salad. Yeah. Now, other fun things about a Quan is when you order beer, let's just say, completely unlike America. In America, you got to order them from your waitress or from the bar directly, generally speaking, one at a time. And the reason being is the beer is typically cold in a fridge or something like that. And so if you were to order 10 cold beers at once, by the time you're on your third, you're going to be like, that doesn't work. Right. Now, in Vietnam, they're very practical. So what that also means is when you order beers, you actually order a full case at once. So they'll bring 20 of them to your table. On top of that, they might actually bring buckets of ice and ice water and then put the bottles inside the buckets of ice water to kind of cool them down. And they may bring several buckets of ice to your table. So you have like beer and ice, mixed together. So that means when it comes to ordering at a restaurant, yeah, you just show up and say, bring a case, which is easy as far as the staff is concerned, because they just shaklang and then shaklang, shaklang. And then they leave you alone for about an hour, and if you need another case, just wave them over and they come on over and bring you another case. And in the end, they just count the empties. It's really straightforward, really simple. They don't have to be like on you and attentive to you. Again, it's reasonable. The staff will just leave you alone for like an hour, or 3 hours if you want. Have I done this? Yes. I went to a bar with my buddy Sam, or a Quan with my buddy Sam. Yeah, we showed up there about 11 in the morning. They dropped off the case and the ice. Thinking about 3 in the afternoon, we ordered some more ice. Yep, they pretty much left us alone. If we want to order something, we yell. So this is kind of a neat ordeal. Now, what makes this the biggest differences between here and America when we're talking about a Quan? Now, again, Quans represent 80-90% of the eateries, drinkeries that I tend to go to. So I'm going to speak about that. But anyway, yes, ordering a whole case at once is one big difference between America and Vietnam. Another big difference is the wait staff leaves you alone in Vietnam. They leave you alone. They won't interrupt your conversation. They won't come over and hover. They won't just stand there staring at you, usually speaking. Nope, they're going to be off in the background. Hell, they might even be sitting on their phone, browsing Facebook, playing a game. And whereas in America, the wait staff makes their rounds. They check on every table. Are you still doing okay? How's your food tasting? Would you like a to-go bag? Hey, could I grab you another drink? In America, the definition of a good waitress, or waiter for that matter, is one who's always watching your drink. When you're like 2/3 done with your beer or 2/3 done with your cocktail, would you like another one? I'll have that ready for you. It'll be done by the time you're done with this one. All right, thank you so much. Let me clear out these dishes. Okay. Would you like another beer? How about some appetizers and some shrimp poppers and fajitas, huh? That kind of thing. And that's a definition of a good waiter or waitress. This is in stark contrast in Vietnam. The definition of a good waiter or waitress is one who says nothing. Yep. Never bothers you, never gets in your way. And when it comes to, beer, make sure you got that case sitting there. And they won't really ask you, is the food tasting good, sir? Nope. They won't ask you, are you ready for dessert? Nope. And they won't even really ask, like, would you like to pay the bill and square up? My shift is about to end. Nope. So it's a little bit weird. Now, in the middle of this is France. What that means is in France, in a lot of places, they actually have a disc, a green and red disc. So that means you flip up a green disc when you want service. And the waiters and waitress knows, okay. Hello, can I help you with something? Great. Da, 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 da. Great, thank you. Flip it to red. Don't bother me. Right. But in Vietnam, it's pretty much always red. And in America, it's like kind of always green, so to speak. Now, I notice this when I'm in Vietnam, especially when I'm hanging with Westerners. Like, we'll go there and let's just say my family, for example, we order a bunch of food and drinks, and then we're sitting there and I know let's say we're running low on beer or want to order something else. And I could see like my Western friends getting anxious, like, where is the staff? God damn it. They're just so inattentive. The service here just, come on. Well, look at them. They're just like a 18-year-old kid who still doesn't understand proper waiting and waitress experiences and so forth. Oh my God, this is annoying. They're thinking about it wrong. Whereas in contrast, I go back to America and I just want to have a deep conversation with my, girlfriend, wife, buddy, or whatever the case is. And every 6 minutes, the wait staff interrupts me and I'm just like, dude, just let me hang out. Something like that, right? So again, this is a huge contrast between the two. Now, while we're on the topic, the differences too are again with the wait staff. Um, in America, it is rude to yell across the restaurant in order to get the attention of a waiter or waitress. That's extremely rude. I mean, even to ring a bell a few times is kind of weird and rude. Best case scenario, you catch them by the eye and then give them a wave, or something like that, and let them know. Or if you see another staff member, say like, "Hey, could you grab our waitress? We're table 7." Oh, well, yeah, this and said waitress has tables 1 through 5, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Great. So that's how you get the attention of the wait staff. Or you physically stand up and then walk over to the bar, or stand up and walk over and catch your waitress, something like that. Vietnam, no. In Vietnam, give a yell. And Kung, you know this one. Yep, am I? Am I? Am I? Oi means like, hey. M would be the general pronoun for sister, brother. Hey, sister. Come over here. And again, this is, it's really convenient and it makes a ton of sense. And I love the Vietnamese system. Yep. That's why they walk around in America. Yes, absolutely, Kung. That's exactly why, and that's their job. Absolutely. It's hard work being a waiter or waitress in America. It is. You're never sitting. No, you're moving your whole shift, generally speaking. Yep, MI. There it is. There it is. Thank you, Kung. Now, what's actually really neat about this, and the reason that I like it, is it's great for me as a guest because, again, I'm talking about in Vietnam. It's great for me as a guest because if I want to be left alone, I am left alone for hours, all day long, all day long. They won't even ask how I am. Perfect. And their job is to keep my beer glasses full and table full of food. And that's it. No, so it's good for me as a guest because I don't get bothered. But also, it's good for them as a waiter or waitress because one waiter or waitress can actually sit there and browse their phone. They don't even have to look at anybody. They don't have to walk around, make their rounds, interrupt anybody. They don't really have to do any work. They just sit there with their ears open. And they're just waiting for that classic, am I? Yep, they're tuned into just am I only. They're waiting for that. It's easier for them to just sit there and not do a damn thing and wait for am I? Stand up. And in some cases, you might order something from across the restaurant. It sounds weird in America. It's super weird over here, but in Vietnam, it's convenient as hell. For example, maybe I'll yell, am I? And then the gal, let's say, will stand up and I'll be like, soda, hey, bucket of ice. And they'll be like, yeah. Yep. And then they'll come by a minute later with a big old bucket of ice. Problem solved. In fact, I'll probably even skip the thank yous, probably even skip all the details. She'll skip the, yes, sir, I'll be right on it. I'll bring it right over. Not really skip all of that. Come on. Back to what I was talking about. Right. So the interaction is really abbreviated. And so it's a huge contrast to what we have in America. And again, in my personal opinion, I prefer it. I really like the Vietnamese system a lot more. It's way more comfortable to be in restaurants here once you get the ground rules down. So that's what I'm really pointing out here is it can be a better experience if you're expecting it and you know what it has and what's available, what the style, how hard they work and their level of commitment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, while we're on the topic, it's worth pointing this out that, again, in America, among other countries, but especially in America, they're working for tips. So what that means is the more they interact with you, the more they fill your drinks, the more they ask questions. How is the food for you? How can I help you along in the next step of your restaurant journey? The more interactive they are, the better. And the faster they move and the more tables that they can work and the more loops that they're able to make, the better. And the more polite and thank yous, hey, that's what I'm getting at there, Kung. The more politenesses they offer, the more conversational that they are. Are you enjoying your food today? What are you up to today? Getting some shopping in? Oh, I hope you enjoy the city. Well, have a wonderful day. It's sunshine out there. Well, good luck to you. Yeah, and they maybe even shake hands with you and wish you well. And, all these politenesses, the better they are at this, the more money they can make because of tips. Tips. They're working for the tips. Right. And there's a protocol. There's a waiter waitress handbook, more or less, that you get in America, how to get tips in America. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And the customers kind of read this same book. If I come here the third time, you remember my name as a customer, I'm going to tip you more. If you converse with me more and make my wife and I happy here, I'm going to tip you more. If you say nice things about my wife's dress while I'm here, and that kind of thing, right? Now, when you remove that entire idea of tips, just get that out of the equation, whoo, now we're changing things around quite a bit. In fact, check this out. It's reasonable in Vietnam that you could have 5 distinct waiters and waitresses because they're not working for tips anyway. So any waiter or waitress can work with any table anytime. So they just have a big tab, on the back. Let's say table number 7, this big old group of people here. And every time somebody orders something, they'll just like, oh, table 7, another case of beer. Great. Any waiter or waitress in the whole restaurant will that you order from will bring it over and add it right in on there. Cool. You order any other dish of food? Oh, okay, table 7. Perfect. So all of a sudden, you don't have a dedicated waiter or waitress. So in a odd sort of way, it's kind of weird to ask the waiter or waitress's name and expect to have one dedicated waiter or waitress for your table only. That's a little weird in Vietnam. That doesn't really happen, in the same way. And for that matter, when sometimes a waiter or waitress, their shift will end and they just pack up and go home. They don't have to close up any particular table. They're not after your tip money in any way. They probably won't even say goodbye. They'll just leave, Hey, Long Dong. Yeah, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, in your case, Long Dong is a good example here. He's been having terrific luck meeting waitresses in particular in Vietnam. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me, Travis, how many dates have you been on with Vietnamese waitresses? I'm guessing it's more than 5. I'm just guessing. But anyway. But yeah, when you remove the tips idea, then it's reasonable that, again, the shifts just change right around you and you're none the wiser. You don't have to pay attention to that fact or that idea. Whereas in America, if you know that they're good answer there, Travis. Lost count. How many dates? Right. But anyway, in America, that's a thing. Like, oh, my shift ends at 3, so they'll probably bring that up. So that means like maybe they're going to want to close you out at 2:45 so that they can get their tip money, and then switch you over to the next waiter or waitress or something like that. That's just kind of generally understood. But in Vietnam, no way. That has never happened. Don't care. The conversation has never occurred, ever. So, yeah, we got a hell of a contrast going on here. Again, in my own personal preferences, heard the word, dive in. No, to answer your question, Kung, I've never heard of dive in. Now, it's not Thai with an A over it, which would be Western or hand. But yeah, maybe you could explain a little better, I guess. Kind of supplement here. Thank you, by the way. So anyway, this is a big deal. This is a very big deal, noticing this difference. Now, also, while we're kind of talking about waiters and waitresses and that kind of thing, I did want to mention that in America, we are really hefty and heavy about the thank yous and your welcomes and the polite words surrounding things. And whereas in Vietnam, that usually gets abbreviated out and skipped over. What that means is it's reasonable when you're in Vietnam, as an example, if they bring in some food or they bring you a case of beer or bring you a bucket of ice, they don't say a word. Nope. They just turn around and walk away. In America, they'd be like, okay, it's not offensive, but it's just like, it's kind of weird. Don't, thank you, I guess, and something like that, right? But in Vietnam, again, they stay out of your hair as much as possible, and they are less verbal when it comes to the thank yous and your welcomes and polite stuff here. Normally, it's instead done with silence, or you look at them with a smile. That's it. And door slamming, I'll bear it up. Yeah. Anyway, there'll be a little more nonverbal about it. Now in America, we have this. I say "come on" a lot. I sometimes wonder if I'm making them feel weird. Good question, or good point, actually. And I don't know. The way I look at it with the thank yous, I'm like a fat kid, making Kool-Aid. I just pour more sugar in there, And that is a girl who sits at your table and do service. You can hug. Oh my gosh, and then do whatever to her. Oh, Ty Vin. Okay, Kung. I guess I never really thought about that before, but okay. Good to know, huh? That sounds like a cafe om, or kata om, huh? Karaoke om, huh? But anyway, so they're not really heavy on the thank yous and goodbyes and this and that. It's abbreviated out. So as a result, like if a Vietnamese person wants to be a waiter or waitress in America, they're often seen as rude if they cling to their culture and the Quan idea. They're going to be probably the worst waiter or waitress in American history. Like, show up, take your food, nod, walk away, bring your food, not even look you in the eyes, walk away. People would be like, fuck this restaurant. I hate this place. Oh my God, the service sucks. 1 star. Right. We're just talking about different worlds. Handrail. Okay. Dive in. Oh, I thought A had a hat over it. Okay, but I'll trust you. You're the Vietnamese guy. The handrail. Okay, whatever. Okay, we could say a squeeze, if you will. Again, I've never had that experience. But okay, good to know anyway. So who is more polite, Vietnam or America? Well, that's an inappropriate question and a weird question. I don't really know. It's a matter of opinion. Although, once again, I can say I prefer the Vietnamese system. And let's face it, my $10 meal in Vietnam is going to cost $10. My $10 meal in America is going to cost $15 because I had a person interrupting me and chatting me up, the whole way. Ideally, So again, I prefer more of the Vietnamese personally. No, while we're on it, warm beer, cold beer, warm beer, cold beer. It sounds weird that they serve beer warm in Vietnam and then you put ice in the cup. All that seems kind of weird from an American perspective because that's taboo. But in Vietnam, in contrast, it makes a ton of sense. Okay, and let me explain. First of all, from the American perspective, to be able to keep beer cold from the factory all the way to your mouth is a really difficult procedure. That means you have to have refrigerated trucks, for example. And then all of the beer has to be stored in a refrigerated room or part of the restaurant or bar. And while we're on the topic, it has to be kept in a refrigerator next to the bar. So how many fridges has this touched, since from the factory to your table? 7? Yeah. And it's got to be kept cold the whole way. And then for that matter, it's got to be cold from the fridge to your mouth, and you got to have them one at a time. And then once you're done with this, then they take one from the fridge that's still cold, and then you drink that. To bring a cooler to your table in America would be weird. I've never seen it before. It would be odd if I went to a bar and then they just got 6, 7, 8 beers and then put them in a cooler and put them next to my table in a bar in America. I've never seen that before. When you think about it from a practical standpoint, it makes perfect sense. But I've never seen it before. So you're forced in America to order them one at a time. There's no real other way around it. So with that said, contrast. In Vietnam, beer is warm once it leaves the factory. So they don't have to refrigerate it. It's not in a refrigerated truck. They don't have to keep it inside a refrigerated room or walk-in freezer of any kind. Nope. And they can actually have it just sit out in stacks right outside of the restaurant for that matter. And then when they bring you a case of beer, it's going to be warm in the bottle, good to go. And by putting a bucket of ice next to it, that it's kept at basically room temperature the whole way. It's probably never touched a fridge, and bloop, you put the ice in it the moment before it hits your lips. So in both cases you get cold beer, but the Vietnamese system is way more convenient, way less refrigerators, way less BS, and along the way, way less resources. It's cheaper, and they can bring them out to you a case at a time. Well, that's pretty cool. And that's really convenient and really useful. Now, I did want to mention that there's something called beer getting burnt. What that means is it's kind of like rice or food in general. If you put it in the fridge, then reheat it, put it in the fridge, then reheat it, a thermal cycle, how many thermal cycles can you do? 3, 2, 5? Well, at some point, the food's just going to be no good anymore. Same thing with beer. If you go cold, warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, a few thermal cycles, the beer's shot. It tastes nasty. Right. So by keeping it warm the whole way and then putting ice in it the last moment before you drink it, actually makes it taste better than if it's cold. If it's cold, that means it goes cold, warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, and then it's burnt. So I do not drink cold beer, typically speaking, from a restaurant for that exact reason. Normally it tastes nasty. But if I just order it warm and ice it, tastes good. So yeah, it's a definite difference. Now, that's the beer idea. Takes some getting used to for a Western person to start putting beer in their glass. But once you get used to it, it's awesome, and it's the way to roll. So yes, I do prefer the Vietnamese system, no doubt about it. Now, community everything. Okay, family style dining. Okay, this is a big difference. So we're subject changing a little bit here. Now, in American English, we would call it family style, which basically means like Thanksgiving dinner or something like that you're eating with your family. So what this means is like, yep, all the food is in the center of the table and everyone has their individual plate. And then perhaps in America, we'll take the food and pass it around, pass left, let's just say. So you grab one scoop of this, pass it to the left or right or whatever the case is. Yep, and then pass it around, and then you can fill your plate little by little, and then you have a full plate. Life is good. Cool, cool, cool. So far, so good. That's family style. Now, of course, in America, when we go to a restaurant, that's less common. We specifically differentiate foods between appetizer, which specifically means it's going in the center and everyone grab a piece, something like that, versus an individually ordered dish. For example, I'll take your fish special tonight. I'll have a steak. I'll have a hamburger. I'll have, blah, 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 whatever the case is. In American culture, it's reasonable that sure, you share an appetizer, but if I order a plate of food, it's all for me. Nobody else is going to like stick their fork in it and grab a piece off of it. And no one's going to like grab off of my plate reasonably. In fact, they probably won't even ask. It's just understood in general that this is my food, that is your food, this is the shared food, and there's like a distinct line in between them. Okay, all of this makes sense so far. And this also makes a lot of sense because, let's face it, sometimes food's expensive. If I spent $25 on a steak, I ain't sharing. Okay, something like that, right? And while we're on the topic, in America, if you order a dish of, let's say, steak, it's going to come with a salad and your potatoes and maybe a vegetable and a side dish or something like that. And it's going to come all in one plate, all ready to rock, specifically designed for one person. Exactly. And thank you, Kung. So let's go to Vietnam. Does not work that way at all. No way. Not a chance, not one bit. No way. No way. In other words, Vietnam, it's all family style. Yep, pretty much everywhere you go, all the time with everybody. What that means is I don't, reasonably, generally speaking, it's weird. I would never order a dish just for me while I'm sitting there with four people. Like, I'll take the pork ribs, shaklank, and put them all in front of me and then eat right off of the plate. That just doesn't happen because all food is community, all food is family style, all food is shared, and all food is in the center of the table. And instead of having plates, people have the little bowls. They call them chen. And they're about this big. So yeah, you grab a little, grab a little, grab a little. And everyone puts a little bit into your individual chen. Boop, put it right up to your lips and nose, and then get right to work. It's convenient as all get out. It is great. It is great. So that means if there's four of us here, and then let's just say we don't have to order all four dishes at once in Vietnam. Let's just order two. Hey, let's try the pork ribs, and then we'll get a mixed vegetable platter. How about that? Great. And why don't we get a bowl of white rice while we're at it, and something like that. And we'll get some fries, French fries. Great, great, great. And then we just order one or two dishes, and then blah, 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 blah. And if we're still hungry, hey, we'll take two more, shared. And or one more, shared. So yeah, when we're sitting with a group of people, let's just say 5 people or something like that, everybody shares everything. And it's great. And then if 3 or 4 more people show up a half hour later, great, sit down. Food's already here. Case of beer is right here. Let's do it. And if some people leave halfway through dinner, that's cool. You want to throw in a little bit for the food you've ordered so far? Go ahead. That'd be great. If not, whatever. But it's really organic. So that means a group, like a standard dinner outing. Maybe it starts off with, in Vietnam, it's going to be a 3-hour event, and maybe in the first hour, there's only 3 people there. By the time you're an hour deep into it, maybe 7 people are there or 10. And then hour later, maybe it fades down to 7 again and 5 and so forth. And it kind of comes and goes and comes and goes. But the fact that we're all sharing food makes this super easy because you can just, we're sharing, or we're sharing. More people showed up, order more food. No one else shows up. We just kind of keep going with what we got. We're done eating and we just want to sit here and drink beer with the food all sitting out, shared in the center. That's cool. Again, the Vietnamese style is terrific and awesome style, and I love it. It's low pressure, simple, easy, and it helps that a lot of the dishes are 50,000 to 100,000. So that means like $2 to $3, $4 a pop. So yeah, you don't got to really sit and worry about who's buying what. Now, while we're at it, there also people are going to have something called a lao, which is a hot pot, basically, which, like it sounds, they put the little flaming ordeal, right there in the center of your table and have a big old pot of, let's say, seafood or some damn thing, and shrimp, let's just say, or beef, or whatever the case is. Yep, you guessed it. It's all shared by everybody. And so it'll have the ladle in there. Everyone kind of gathers out of it and go from there. So for some reason or another, Vietnamese people will lao, thank you. Yep, you got it. For some reason or another, you got to put it in your bowl first and then eat it. If you eat it directly out of the bowl or plate on the table, it's a little weird. Yeah, I guess you could. But again, share. And obviously, when it comes to the beer, we all order the same beer and all pretty much drink the same beer, generally speaking. And yep, everybody shares with everybody. Hence, when we have these small cups, like let's say yay big, 100 milliliters, I guess I could say. Once you put the ice in there, you're talking about 80 milliliters. Yeah, we'll just open a bunch of beers on the table and then pour it into the cup. So this concept of ownership that we would have normally in America is, this is my beer, that is your beer, this is my food, that is your food, this is our shared appetizer. If we get a pitcher of sangria, all right, so be it, that's shared. But generally speaking, it's highly separated. Vietnam, nope. All beer is for all people. What's in your individual cup is yours. What's your individual bowl is yours. Tiny bowl, tiny cup. But other than that, it's all shared. So you might take one beer and pour for everybody. Grab another one, pour. which actually works out great because one beer from the time it's open to the time it's poured out in glasses and in someone's mouth is less than a minute. Pop, pour, pour, pour. So it's still fizzy, warm, or fresh, etc. is what I meant to say. Yep, and you're good to go. Similarly, the food is super fresh, because you can order it and it's eaten as fast as you pretty well order it. Now, again, I prefer the Vietnamese style big time to the Western style. Now, we run into a problem, and I noticed this when my family came to visit here in Vietnam. My American family are just born and bred on the American style way of doing it, which isn't wrong, but it works in this world. So here are some big problems that we ran into. And it's almost comical. It's not just almost, it is comical to Vietnamese people to watch Americans eat in Vietnam because it looks ludicrous to them. Example, my parents came to a Vietnamese restaurant here in Vietnam, and brother and his wife, mom and dad, and then my two cousins. All right, so now we're talking 7 people, well, plus my wife, 8 people are sitting down for food. Well, in Vietnam, and a Vietnamese way of doing it, you should order, start off with maybe three dishes and a case of beer. Good to go. Or in a bottle of wine or whatever the case is. Makes perfect sense. And then they just bring it out as it's done. And maybe they'll bring one out at a time, or maybe 2 at a time, then 1 at a time. Great. All this is nice and simple. No, that's not how it worked. The group of 8 here, what they ended up doing is, well, I will take the frog, pass the menu. I will take the ribs, pass the menu. I will take, a hot pot for myself. And I will take, so each person ordered an individual food item. So that means this table of people ordered 8 food items. Whoa. Problem 1, you're ordering way too much food. I mean, they don't understand how much food this is. So that's the first weird thing. Second weird thing, you're ordering all this food right away, immediately upon sitting down. Take your time. You should order 2 or 3 at a time, tops. Don't order 8 things at once. You're probably going to have leftovers. Next problem. It's weird for Vietnamese people that, wait, you just ordered the ribs only, which is exactly what you think it is, a plate of only ribs and nothing else, and you sit there and only eat ribs yourself and don't share with anybody? Weird. Why would you do that? And that's weird that you would want to sit there and eat ribs only and not rice, not mixed vegetables, not share the lao, not share the appetizer, not share these other foods, not have any. Why would you sit and only eat one thing and then go home? That's super weird for Vietnamese people. But in America, it's kind of how you roll. So it's just comical. It's comical how this is. Even the waiters and waitresses are kind of smirking like, huh. Or they set down a plate of food right in the center of the table, but then one of my family members is like, that was mine. I'm the one who ordered the ribs. And the waiter's like, oh, okay, I suppose. All right, so you want it over there then, huh? Oh, okay, I guess. And they don't pay attention to who ordered what, because in Vietnam it doesn't matter. It's all going in the center anyway, right? But in America, no, person 1, then they go clockwise, and then, 8 people here, they're going to have 8 orders, of course, and so then I'm going to put them down in order. Right. So once again, American people are like, the staff here are just idiots. They just don't understand that I'm the one that ordered. Don't they know the fish is for me and frog is for him, blah, blah, blah. Next problem. In America, it's really regimented when you go to a restaurant where it's like, well, first we start off with an appetizer, and then the waitress will say something like, could I give you some drinks to get started, an appetizer to get started, give you time to look over the menu, which is polite. And then, oh, sure, let's start us off with some, wings and string fajitas. And I'll take a cocktail. Oh, I'll take a beer. I'll take 1 cup of wine. Okay, great. I'll go grab those drinks. Here's the menus. And then I'll be ready to take your order after that. Bing, bing, bing. Here's the drinks. Here's your appetizer. Pads out. What's up? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then they bring out all 8 people's food all at the same time. Yep. So it might take 2 waiters to bring it all out at once so everyone gets the food all at the same time, because it's kind of rude for one person to start eating while the other people don't have their food. You get taught that as a child. Right. All this makes sense over here. Come to Vietnam, you look like an idiot because, maybe, oh, they ordered 8 dishes. They must be hungry. Okay. So, yeah, as they're done, the kitchen can't cook all 8 simultaneously. Obviously, they're only going to cook 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, tops. And plus, they got a full restaurant. So, and it would be weird for them to be done cooking food and then just set it on the ground or set it on a table for 20 minutes, waiting for the rest of them to be cooked. That would be stupid. So, no, they bring them out 1 at a time or 2 at a time. So, here's my family who are perfectly smart and polite people sitting here, and that frog was mine. And then that steak was mine. And now here's the other 6 people. Well, I can't start eating yet because they haven't started eating and they haven't gotten their food yet. I guess I have to stare at this plate of food for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes until all 8 dishes are here. It's awkward. And then there's all these waiters who are sitting there like in Vietnam, like, eat. What's wrong with you? You just ordered all this food and all the food's here. Just start eating. It's not very complicated, folks. And the rest will be out eventually. Just start. Why are you ordered 8 dishes of food and now I bring them right to you and now you stare at it for the next 15 minutes? What's wrong with you? To a Vietnamese people, this is so weird. Why would you do that? I mean, again, in Vietnam, they're practical. You order food, you share it and get started. As soon as it hits the table, all right, bowls out, ding, 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 ding. Come on, everybody, let's eat together. Hooray. Right. So if you have this American idea of how restaurants and food is supposed to work in the order of events, and then you go to Vietnam and try to use that same thing, it's going to create all kinds of cross patterns and it's going to be messed up. And inevitably, a lot of American people are going to conclude the service here sucks. Don't they understand? They didn't pay attention to who ordered what. These waiters and waitresses are stupid. Plus, the kitchen staff and their entire restaurant setup is dumb. They don't bring out our food at the same time. Duh. And plus, I ordered ribs, but there's no side dishes. I ordered ribs, and all I got was ribs. Where's the side dish of potatoes? Where's the salad? Come on. Right. Welcome to Vietnam, So again, as long as we are able to differentiate these 2 different worlds, we're doing pretty good. As long as you know that when we go out to eat at a Quan, we're going to share everything. It's going to be family style and, it's going to be slower pace and we're probably going to be here a few hours, that kind of thing. Well, then terrific. So anyway, who is more polite? I don't know. Who has better etiquette? I don't know. But again, who's more practical? The Vietnamese, for sure. And in my own personal taste, I prefer the Vietnamese style big time. It's way, way easier. Yeah, Kuang, man. Yeah, Kuang, buddy. Yeah, you never talk. I never think about those things. Right, man. Yeah, and it's Kuang. You're a perfectly polite and a perfectly reasonable guy and perfectly well adapted to Vietnamese life and style here, of course. But yeah, you would be like pulling out your hair confused if you went to America on their style. And maybe American people would think you're rude because as a Vietnamese person going to America, people order 5 different dishes and you're like bowl out and you're like pulling off of everybody's plate. They'd be like, what's wrong with you? Don't touch my food. Yeah. It's bizarre. So anyway, when I go around in restaurants here in Vietnam that cater to Westerners, a lot of times I point out these sort of differences, in America and that we have between America and Vietnam. And a lot of times the restaurant staff are really surprised. They're like, really? And to be fair, if you grew up in Vietnam, you're going to look at the American style and think like, well, that's kind of dumb. Or that's inconvenient, or that's a little weird or hard to pull off, something like that. Right. So anyway, these are some big things at restaurants and Quans and stuff like that. Now, I think a lot of this boils down to an American idea of like, this is mine, that is yours. This is mine, that is yours. The space that I'm sitting in is my space. So don't reach over my space. Don't put your hand over my food. Don't put your hand over me. Don't shake someone's hand right next to my face. And don't drink from my cup. Don't pour into my cup, and don't take from my cup. This is my beer and my drink and my bottle of wine. I mean, I might invite you for some, but don't just take it. Right, right. In Vietnam, if it's on the table, it's community. That's it. If you're a smoker, put the smokes on the table and people will grab out of your pack of cigarettes without even asking. It's community. If you order some food and it's on the table, people will take out of that plate without even asking. In fact, if you were to, in Vietnam, order some food and then put it right in front of you and say, this is mine, that would be rude. That would be weird. That would be ridiculous. People will like wonder about that somehow. I don't even know what they would say. I've never seen it before. That would be so weird, to do that. And that kind of thing. So this possession thing. While we're at it, people in America tend to be, they don't like to be told what to do, I think is a vague way of saying it. It would be weird if you're sitting in America, for example, and the waitress says something like, you need to order something now. It's time to eat. You look hungry. Let's go. Or, you need another drink. I'm getting you another drink. That would be weird. Instead, in America, you'd have to say something like, would you like to order anything? Could I get you another drink? And, oh, okay, Henry, you keep smiling, buddy. Enjoy your night, man. And you'll notice a lot of these differences when you're here yourself. And maybe you can catch the rest of the stream, at a later time. I know it's America for you. But thanks for joining me, Henry. And anyway, you'd have to say something like, would you like some more? Could I get you something? Are you hungry? May I help you? Right. But you'll notice in contrast here in Vietnam, nope, they skip all that. Eat up, drink up. It's hungry. You look hungry. It's time to go. Something along those lines. And they're going to be more demanding and more curt and more direct with you. So yes, when you're actually sitting there eating food, or hanging out anywhere, it's going to happen. And people are going to be much more forceful. And I remember being very annoyed when I was first here in Vietnam because somebody, like this morning, I was sitting down having my bowl of soup and I was sending messages on my phone. A random guy, one of my buddies on the street came by and it's just like, Brad, you got to eat. Put away your phone. Now it's time to eat, man. No, pick this up. Eat this. Grab this. No, you didn't order any beer. Order another beer, man. No, you got to have this. Your food's getting cold. Eat it. And it's like, he's just being cool and being polite in a Vietnamese way. But from an American perspective, fuck you, dude. I fully understand how food works and I have a mouth and I have plenty of experience with this. I'll eat when I'm goddamn ready. Okay, get off me. Right. So you're going to notice that people are way more pushy, in Vietnam. They're going to be way more, eat this, take this, have this, drink this, go. And they don't give up and they're relentless. So yes, when I talk about the top, yep. Cool. You know what, man? When I talk about, in Vietnam, people, the top 10 things you need to know, Andi, Wungdi, Andi. You're going to hear, yeah, eat. Andi, eat up, eat it, man, go, eat, go. Uong is drink up, eat it, go. And yes, it's reasonable. If you have a chopsticks in one hand and a beer in the other and you're mid-sip with your mouth full, people are still going to say, eat, your bowl is half empty, go. And they'll even put food in your bowl for you. Yeah, which, again, from an American perspective is rude. Dude, don't touch my food. Hey, I'm perfectly capable of eating on my own. Don't tell me what to do. Come on. You didn't ask me if I'm hungry. Yeah, so it feels, from an American's perspective, it feels rude that a Vietnamese person will be so demanding and relentless. If you're there for 2 hours and your gut is here and you're on dish number 7 and you're 12 beers deep, they still won't stop. They're going to, keep going, keep eating, keep drinking, keep eating. Hey, we got 10 more beers. We're not leaving until we finish the case. Come on. Yep. So it's very easy, once again, for American people to get offended and to get highly uncomfortable when they're hanging with Vietnamese people. This is common. And I notice this a lot when I take Westerners, couch surfers, or other people from America or Western countries out to my local bar here or a local Quan. They, in some cases, lose their mind. In some cases, I've had people half hour into it, they just like, they're so uncomfortable and it's so overwhelming and so many people talking at once and so many invitations and people telling them what to do, they just get offended, and they're just like, I can't stand this anymore. It's too much of a sensory overload. And then they want to just like, I got to get out of here. I got to go to a place where they can just sit and they just stop talking to me. I can't sit with 10 Vietnamese people. It's too much work. Right. So that's what I mean. They're two different worlds here. I can't say which one's more polite or less polite, but they're just different. They're so different. No, I prefer and most of the time I prefer the Vietnamese style. I really do. I still got to admit, I do get bothered when people poke me, put food in my bowl, and continuously tell me to eat and drink. It does get old after a while. I still get annoyed sometimes. But I would rather have that than people sitting around, oh, private meal, private meal, private meal. For example, if I were to go to America and meet my friends at a bar, restaurant, eatery of some kind, and I showed up like half hour late, so to speak, or an hour into the meal, that would be weird for a few reasons. Reason one, I would show up and there'd be basically no food for me, because everyone has their individual dish and individual drink. Nothing's shared. So the appetizers are gone. So there's no food for me and there's no drink for me. Nope. So they might hand me a menu and then everyone else in America will say, oh, yeah, Brad, you're late. So we already ordered and we already ate. So you really can't order anything reasonably. Like, for example, you can't order a steak because that's going to take another 20 minutes and then it's only for you. Then only you are eating and nobody else is. Well, that defeats the purpose of coming out to eat with us, blah, 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 blah. So it creates this awkward situation if you don't show up at exactly the same time with American people. If you're a half hour late for dinner, that's weird. You kind of broke the cycle thing that we got going on, if you kind of see what I mean. Like, we already ordered appetizers, and then step 2, we already ordered our initial drink. Step 3, we already ordered our food. Step 4, the food already came. We already simultaneously began eating. And you show up during step 4, well, you might as well not show up in the first place. Yeah. In Vietnam, totally cool. You come by whenever you want. Everyone's about to leave. Perfect. We got leftovers all over and still have 6 beers. Here you go, buddy. Yeah, come on in. Oh, you just want to come in for 10 minutes? Sweet. Food's already on the table. Help yourself. Get some of this. Have a good one, buddy. Thank you for coming by. Yeah. So the Vietnamese system is set up perfectly for people to show up at random times, early, mid, late, And so it's reasonable in Vietnam to sit at one restaurant for 5 or 6 hours and just people come and go all day long. Totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. And then some guests will come in and just graze for a bit, have one little plate here and have a couple beers. All right, I'm going to go, but I'll be back in an hour. Okay, buddy, and then go and then come back. Totally reasonable. America, that doesn't work. It's really highly regimented. So again, for this timing thing, community thing, I prefer the Vietnamese system. It's just easier. It's easier to invite people in mid-meal. It's easier to meet random people and then have them come over and that kind of thing, especially with regards to food and that kind of thing. Now, to wit. Thus, one interesting thing that's different between these two worlds is in Vietnam, they're highly, highly, highly friendly and highly invitey. They love to invite people. So, by the way, hand gesture. Don't do this in Vietnam. Arm up, hands up, that kind of thing. It's always hand down. But it's very reasonable when I'm like riding my bike home, for example, and I go by the restaurant streets, hey, you, come on over. It seems a little weird in American perspective and culture, but in Vietnam, totally normal. Yeah, that guy looks interesting. Hey, come on over. And what does this mean? Well, they're going to invite me over and they already got food on the table, already got drinks on the table, and they're probably going to say something like, Undi, undi, undi. And as soon as they sit down, they're going to have a fresh glass poured. Well, sort of fresh glass poured. And yep. All right, cheers with us. All right. Moat, hi, bye, yo. What happens next? handshakes. All right. So another thing, they invite random people, and it's very reasonable to come by randomly to a random group of people you've never met before, sit down at their table, share some food with them in their little community ordeal, and then slam a few glasses together. And if they want you to be welcome, they're going to continuously open beers in front of you. So there's always a full beer in front of you, and they're going to keep your glass full. And as soon as it's empty, they fill it. As soon as it's full, you better empty undi. And as soon as you get the idea, you get on this cycle, and they'll get you smashed. Oh yeah, their kindness will not end until you are bursting at the seams and smashed. And even then, they're going to want to keep going for extra innings. Yeah, that's a thing. Totally a thing. Also, I was out last week, Friday. I was out at a restaurant with a few friends of mine. Yep. And there's like 6 of us at a table. Yeah. And then a random guy that we've never met, nobody knows anybody, just shows up, with a glass of beer, shows up to our table. Hello, everybody. It was in Vietnamese, but hey, yeah, xin chào, yeah, xin mai. Yeah, can I please invite you? Oh, yeah. And the whole table, hey, yo, thank you, buddy. Handshake. And maybe they'll introduce themselves. Oh, yeah, my name is Tuan. Yeah, I'm a neighbor. I live next door here. Good to see you. Well, you guys enjoy your meal. Goodbye. Totally normal. And 5-10 minutes later, oh, another guy shows up who we never met before. Hello, I got a beer. Xin mai. Yo, hey, buddy. Handshake. Oh, hello, buddy. You want to sit down with us? Oh, please do. Oh, you're with some fun. Pull up a table. Yeah. Yep. When you go to a Quan in Vietnam, it's highly social to a degree that most American people have never experienced before. It would be ridiculously weird in America to have random people at the restaurant come by and randomly want to cheers with you and then sit down at your table and then for like 5-10 minutes and then get up and then leave. It'd be kind of weird. I mean, it doesn't happen, I'm sure, but at a bar, sure. But they're going to have their own drink, their own beer. It's not like I'm going to buy them a cocktail that I just met. But in Vietnam, yep, always like that. So they combine tables all the time. One reason for having little plastic Barbie chairs and little tiny tables in Vietnam is that they're portable. So they can line up, 5, 6, 7, 8 tables, no problem. Oh, you have 10 more guests? Great, bring them in. Yep, and that kind of thing. So it's actually pretty cool how this all works. Again, I prefer the Vietnamese system big time. And you can meet people so much easier. You can have more beers and more drinks with more people easier, for sure. The timing of the food thing is just easier. Like if let's say I show up an hour and a half into a table's drinking situation, I can go up to the waiter and say, hey, let me buy another plate of French fries and another plate of pork ribs, and then just cash them right there. Oh, okay, great. And my contribution to the night is I just ordered pork ribs. For everybody, oh, you didn't have to do that, you bastard. Well, get this guy a beer. Come on. That's cool. So it's really, really neat ordeal. But a huge contrast, to America in terms of style. And again, in terms of money and how that's all handled. Now, speaking of, when it comes to money, they, in general, if you look at it this way, this is going to sound weird to say it. Whoever pays the bill has the biggest penis. Yep. Whoever pays the bill has the biggest dick. That sounds weird to say it. If you ask a Vietnamese person, is that how people think? They're going to say, no, that's not how we think. But if you actually sit there when people are paying the bill, that's exactly how they think. Like, oh, well, I'm richer than that guy. Oh, I got this one. Yeah, he paid last time. I totally got that. Don't you dare pay a minute. Then that other guy's going to stand up. Oh, I can pay, but you can't. No, I got a bigger dick than you. Right. And they're going to fight over who gets to pay. And sometimes they throw money at each other. One guy will take out $200,000 and throw it at the other guy, or run up to the waiter and hand it to the waiter. And then the next guy will go to the waiter and snatch the 200 out of there, throw it back on the table, grab 200 out of his wallet, throw it at the waiter. Don't talk to that guy. Talk to him. Yep. That's how it goes when it comes to paying the bill. Yeah, buddy. That's totally a thing here in Vietnam. And yeah, so it makes it kind of funny and different to watch these battles going on in terms of how to pay. So that also makes it kind of nutty as a guest coming in, which means a group of 5 people are already sitting down, and you're just this guest that are walking by that got randomly invited in. Don't If you pull out money right then and try to pay, obviously they're going to stop you. No, don't put your money away. My dick's bigger than yours, or something like that. They want to treat you, and they want to treat you well. And the simple fact that food and drinks are so cheap in Vietnam, no one's getting poor anyway. I mean, what do you drink, $1 worth of beer? Who cares? So yeah, being a professional guest and moving and bouncing between places can be a lot of fun, and ultimately cost you nothing all day if you play your cards right. So anyway, it's kind of cool how that works. Now, while we're on the note of restaurants, Quans, and this and that, here's another wickedly, wildly different thing. Okay, this is a mind blow for a lot of Americans. Okay, outside food, bringing in outside food. Okay, in America, let's start here. That's a no-no. For example, it would be weird in America. You can't cook your own steak at home, put it in a little bag, and then go to a steak restaurant and then open up your bag and then ask for a plate. And they give you a plate, and then you put your own steak on your own table. Certainly, it'd be even more weird if you had a cold steak from home and say, could you please heat this up in your kitchen for me and then plate it for me? Oh, and I brought my own beer from home. Could you please give me a cooler full of ice so I can put my own beer in there? Thank you. Yeah. Oh, and I brought my own bottle of wine. Do you have a bottle opener? Thanks. Yeah, that would be super weird. In fact, borderline illegal. I don't know. People just never do that. It'd be ridiculous. And they'll either, I don't even know what would happen. Chances are they would tell you no outside food or drink for food safety concerns or insurance or something. Certainly they'll say save that for later, or we also have steak here, sir. You can't bring a steak to a restaurant. In fact, that's an idiom. Don't bring a steak to a steak restaurant. Yeah, it's just weird. You would never do that. In Vietnam, hell yeah. We just got done cooking dinner at home, my wife and I, and a friend calls, hey, we're at a restaurant. Come and join us. Oh, bag it up. We literally will bring food from home. And I mean, I could bring beer from home, but it costs the same at the restaurant as it does the store as it does home. So might as well just have that at the restaurant. What the hell? But yeah, I bring my own food to a restaurant in Vietnam. Totally normal. Totally normal. America, completely taboo. Yep. Thank you. Hey, Laura, good to hear from you. Yeah, exactly. So we got health department regulations. I mean, especially at a wedding. Oh my gosh, they have so much insurance and regulations. It's clear. It's on the top 5 list of rules. Nothing from outside. No outside food, no outside drinks. Yep. Maybe it's due to regulations, insurance, or whatever. There's a ton of reasons. And money, let's face it. That kind of thing. Again, at a restaurant or whatever. Oh man. So in Vietnam, all the goddamn time, you could go to a fruit market in Vietnam next to the restaurant and then buy a bunch of fruit and then have the restaurant cut it up for you and then eat it right there at the restaurant. Yeah, totally cool. Totally cool. In fact, on top of all that, they got people walking by on the street and driving by on the street offering peanuts, mangoes, fruits, whatever the hell, bags of popcorn or they will sell food to you while you're sitting in a restaurant. They will sell food on the street to you people selling food, outside food, will walk into a restaurant, Quan or bar, and start selling their food inside of this restaurant. Totally normal. Totally normal. Isn't that something? So a lot of people from America are just what? You can do that? Sure can. Sure can. So again, it makes it fascinating and it makes it super interesting, the differences. Who's more polite? I don't know. But I definitely prefer the Vietnamese system. Yeah, because it's open-ended. You don't got to worry about so many things. You don't have to sit there and concern yourself with, is the restaurant making money on this? Am I making money on this? Whatever. So This sounds like a weird example, but literally in Vietnam, I could make my own food at home, buy a case of beer, show up at a restaurant, ask for a bucket of ice, sit in their restaurant, drink my own beer using their ice. Hell, their waitstaff will probably put the ice in the cup and pour it for me while eating my own food. And then I buy more food off of the street, effectively giving the restaurant $0, zero dong. That's totally cool. Totally cool. And they wouldn't worry at all. And they'll let me in Vietnam sit there all day long with a big smile and a thumbs up. Yep. How would you show gratuity for the establishment that assisted? That's a good question. Well, it would be reasonable. I mean, that's in a zenith extreme example. But they wouldn't worry about it. Like I've seen this happen at Grandpa's, a bunch of times, and the Grandpa's bar. Yep, no worries at all. It's totally normal. And yes, I've gone to Grandpa's bar a bunch of times and paid absolutely zero. Oh no, he smiled and shook hands the whole way. That's cool. And so it seems odd. Again, that question, how do you show gratuity for the establishment that assisted? It's a great question. That's an American question. In Vietnam, that doesn't really come up. But to be clear, this extreme example doesn't happen very often because, once again, you might as well buy the beer from the restaurant because it costs the same as buying it from a store. So you might as well just buy it from the restaurant. At that point, it's easier than hauling it there. And similarly, why go to the restaurant in the first place? Well, you could order something, obviously, but maybe other people will show up. Sure. As far as the restaurant's concerned, ice is free pretty much. And their staff is working there anyway. So they just don't care as much. So it's free. It's yeah. Some guys even walk in the restaurant, sing and sell his food. Yep. Totally a thing. Totally a thing. So I love it. So it's really weird for me when I go from Vietnam in 3 months, just world of freedom, do whatever you want, walk from place to place, bring this food to this place and beer from here to there and have this and there. Don't even give a damn about where it's from and don't even care. And then I go to Vietnam and or America and strict. And I'm like, oh man, I forgot about all these rules. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so these this is the thing. Now, along the way, it's very reasonable for like 9 restaurants to be in a row in Vietnam. Okay, and I could actually sit at one restaurant and then yell next door and then order food from next door and then they will bring it over to me at this restaurant. It's awesome. Yeah, and that's totally cool. In fact, if one restaurant is a little bit busy, or Quans, is a little bit busy, they might do that anyway. Just order it from next door, or pick up the phone and order something in, that they don't have or don't want to cook or something. Yep, totally cool. So there is kind of a collaborative, work effect and whatnot. So, but yeah, in the end, they still make money, so it still works. Now, I focus a lot on politenesses and etiquette with regards to the, again, bar and restaurant, because this is mission critical and the most common thing you're going to do in Vietnam. Like in my own case, 3 times a day, I'm either at a Quans bar, coffee shop, or restaurant, and something along these lines are going to be happening. So anyway, those are the big main ones, when it comes to this. Yelling across the restaurant, totally normal. And while we're at it, this is another weird one. Putting food and putting stuff on the floor, putting stuff on the ground. This is another really weird one for American people. So once again, America, you can never put anything on the floor. Certainly not napkins, chicken bones, gum, cigarette butts. No way, Jose, ever. Even if you put so much as a napkin on the ground, people are going to look at you as rude. Peanut shells, that kind of thing. Yep. And so thinking about it this way, most Americans and Western people are programmed their whole life don't put anything on the ground. They're programmed, that way. In fact, they're incapable of putting something on the ground. They're incapable of doing it, which is wild. In Vietnam, I'm telling you, it sounds weird, but it's just plain easier if somebody puts everything right on the ground. Yep. And it makes it easier. And putting everything on the ground is a good idea for a few key reasons. Reason number one, if you blow your nose in a napkin, to set it in the middle of a table next to everyone else's food, that's rude, my friend. That is rude. Put it on the ground. That's what polite people do. Are you born in a barn? Or something like that. If you have a cigarette and you want to put out a cigarette, why would you put the cigarette right over food? And then right next to food. Now you got a ashtray full of a bunch of ashes next to everyone's food. That's rude. And let's face it, if you're sitting there for 3 hours, that's a lot of napkins and perhaps cigarette butts and empty bottles and chicken bones and stuff like that, isn't it? And so you're way better off just putting it on the ground. That keeps the table clearer. So for that main reason, it's more polite to put discard everything on the ground, spit in the ground, dump things out in the ground, everything in the ground. And yes, in Quans, they okay, you can tell this because A, it's going to say Quan, and B, it's going to say Nyao, and C, it's going to have concrete floors for this exact reason. They're not going to have carpet. It's not going to be beautiful tile work. Nope, usually. It's just going to be simple. No, the other main reason why people do this is, again, in terms of cleanup, it's easier. It's just plain easier. Again, let's contrast this. If we go to America and you put all your stuff on the ground, oh my God, they don't have people sweeping stuff up normally. So, and the bartenders are busy, the waitresses are busy, plus it's probably got carpet. So now they got to clean the carpet, and that kind of thing. And it's really a pain in the ass, to try to clean everything up. Oh, to move the table and move all the chairs out of the way in a busy restaurant is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. And to get down on your hands and knees and start to grab stuff by hand from underneath, it's unthinkable to do that. In contrast, in Vietnam, it's way easier. The tables are plastic. You just lift up the table. Oh, all the garbage and stuff is all in one spot. Perfect. Sweep it all up at once. Bring around a bucket for all the empty bottles and stuff like that. 2 minutes, clean, done. In fact, if there is anything left over on the table, they dump it off the table onto the floor. So all the cleanup stuff is all in one spot. Perfect. Out of sight, out of mind for the guests, and simple cleanup on the back end for the staff. So it's just understood that you just put everything right on the ground for easy cleanup afterwards. So you see the huge contrast and you see the problem here. If you're an American person going to Vietnam, yep, it's going to be you're going to be like, you're American people or Western people, their table is going to be full of bones and empty cans and, napkins and, peanut shells everywhere. And it's going to look, but the floor will be clean. It's going to look weird to Vietnamese people. And then to say to the Vietnamese waiter, can you please clean up our table? We just discarded all of our stuff right here on the table. They'll be like, why would you do that? Just put it in the ground. Come on. That would save me tons of time. Why would you put all your shit on the table? Right. So you get this big issue when American people go to Vietnam. They can't put stuff on the table. So they're like, where's the ashtray? I need a garbage. There's no garbage. I need a little bin. There is no bin. Right. You get the same problem when Vietnamese people go to America. They're like, wow, eat the chicken off the little chicken wing. Shakunk, right on the bar floor. Blow their nose right on the bar floor. There's a little bit in this cup. Don't worry. Dump that on the floor and then put more ice in it. Ooh, they're going to look like a bunch of assholes. Yeah. And, right. But I tell you what, Kung, this putting stuff on the floor, that's too small of a thing to think about. Putting stuff on the floor is a big deal in a lot of regards for people that are otherwise, again, at a bar, restaurant, or, something along those lines. So anyway, but yeah, hey, let's go a little bit broader. And let's kind of change the subject here a little bit. Okay, pictures. Okay, people are going to take a lot of pictures here in Vietnam. They're Asian by definition. That's just what they do. Probably 5 times more than we do in America. Now, that's worth noting. A couple key things when it comes to taking pictures. First of all, you might as well do it. They're going to want to do it anyway, and to say no is pretty darn rude. 2, because you're perhaps a Westerner or foreigner, they're going to definitely want to jump to that first before they even know your name, because they want to put on Facebook, look, I hung out with this foreigner guy. Yeah, they take that pretty seriously. And 3, they're giving you a bunch of free beer and free food pretty often. The least you could do is take a photo with them. Come on. If that's your only contribution, so to speak, to the group is get a picture with them, cool. And yeah, you could say selfie, but selfie tends to be one person taking a picture of just themselves. But rather, yeah, and it may be true that they will want a selfie with you, like 3 of you all together. Yep, totally a thing. Totally a thing. So, point being, be ready for that. Don't be Mr. Grumpy or Miss. No, yet again, I already took 40 pictures today. This is 41. Come on. Don't do that. You might as well be a champ about it. Okay. Now, while we're at it, there's a couple of hand signals that people do. One is they want to have their cups out. That would make sense. 2, they'll do the double peace sign, which in general, right, or the single peace sign, which can mean like I'm happy, or hi in Vietnamese. The number 2, hi. Also the verbal hi. And then you're also going to see people do something like this, which is, something along these lines, which is means heart. It's kind of the symbol for heart. And it comes out in a few different ways. It could look like this, like this, like this. But generally speaking, this is what it looks like. So if you see 10 Vietnamese people all getting a picture together, they're going to do like a symbol like this. And love, right. I've never saw that in America before. But yeah, that's totally a thing. So when you are getting a picture with someone, just look at what are they doing with their hands. Do the same thing. If there's 10 people doing the heart and you look like a fool. So that's a big one. Now, one thing to avoid, by the way, would be doing crossing your fingers like this. That does normally mean like pussy in Vietnamese. So it would be kind of weird, like wish me luck. Yeah, that would make sense in America, but wish me luck looks really funny, and people will laugh at you in Vietnam. Like, what? pussy? Huh? Yep, that's a thing. So you got to be careful about that. Middle finger means middle finger. So, but it's even stronger in Vietnam than it is in America. That's like, I rarely see it. It's hugely terrible thing to do in Vietnam. So be careful of that. But yeah, when it comes to pictures, just be prepared that there's going to be a lot of them, a lot, way more than you've probably ever had in your life in terms of density per day, for sure. Now, the other thing to kind of worry about when it comes to pictures is you would think that 90% of people know how to operate a camera, at least, but that's not true. It's more like 30% know, oh, let's take your picture. Yeah, and then they take out their camera and then, all right, y'all together, nice. That happens about 20-30% of the time. The rest of the time, people are like, wait a second, this camera's looking at me, not you. How do I change the direction of I don't know how this works. Oh my gosh, I'm looking right in the sun. The picture's not going to turn out. I'm jiggling the camera around. Oh, that's all blurry. Why did that happen? I don't understand. You would think after 1,000 pictures, Vietnamese people are good at taking pictures, but they're not. Not 70% of the time they're not. So you got to be super patient, when you are taking pictures, and just acknowledge, oh, they got one camera right here and they want to take some pictures. This could be a 5-minute ordeal because they have to learn how to use a camera. Yep. Might as well be cool about it, right? So pictures, it's going to happen a lot. It's going to happen a lot. Now, to kind of shift again, okay. Shy people and eye contact and things like that. Look, here's a perfect example. I went to Cocodos, which is a kind of a Westerner bar, hotel, resort kind of place here in Vietnam. And the four gals that are there are the classic, expat kind of group or whatever, which is cool. Zero Vietnamese. I think they use much more camera applications to make them look better. Thank you, Kung. They use much more camera apps to make them look better or change it. Yeah, that's probably true. But it's still frustrating, my friend, when 70% of the time they still can't operate a camera. I'm still fascinated and it bothers me, but whatever. But yeah, they're pretty serious about it. Anyway, yeah, I bring up the Cocodos situation because there was a waitress there, and some of the gals were like, "Oh, Miss Grumpy is here again," referring to one of the waitresses. Miss Grumpy is here again. Oh my gosh, did you get a word out of her this time? Nope, not a word. And the reason the expat gals thought this woman was grumpy is, well, this woman didn't really say hi, didn't really look them in the eyes, didn't really go up to them and talk to them. And thank you, Kung. Sometimes you cannot recognize them in real life. I think you're talking about photos, but yeah, they put the cat ears on and all the Hello Kitty cutesy stuff. Yeah, you read about that. That happens. Or they just look off into the sunset and take a picture of the back of their head, and that's their Facebook profile picture. Nice. But anyway, there was this wall between the wait staff and these gals, Westerner gals, and because of culture, etiquette, things like that. These Westerner gals are like, you didn't look me in the eyes. You didn't ask how I'm doing. You didn't come up to me. You didn't offer me a drink when I'm here. You didn't even smile at me. You certainly never said thank you. And you never even say here. You never say yeah when they order a drink. There's nothing. So when you're looking at that perspective to a Vietnamese person, it's like, yeah, that woman's grumpy. I don't like her. Well, in reality, this particular gal happens to be, like, let's say, from the countryside, probably has never talked to Westerners in her life, probably speaks zero English, probably gets nervous every time she hears English, and is nervous to get started at this new job anyway, and wants to do a good job but doesn't know how, doesn't know any of the protocol for these American folks. In the meantime, these American people, after the first few interactions, doesn't know what to say, feels nervous looking at the eyes, wants to be polite, so she'll just look down, wants to be polite, so won't say thank you, won't say any words, just, and she'll just sit there and wait for a hand signal. And, face down, brings the drinks, walks away. Of course, she's trying to be polite and probably nervous and shy. But the American folks are like, what a bitch. Right. It's this whole difference of etiquette and style, between folks. Needless to say, I went over and started chatting with the gal and, like, really slowly, like, hello, hon. Yeah. In Vietnamese, of course, like, hey, xin chào, I hope you're doing well. Oh, have you been working here long? Oh, just a few weeks. Do you enjoy it? Okay. What do you recommend for drinks? Oh, okay, great. Do you like this place and the style? Awesome. Well, my name is Bao. What is your name? Oh, Huang. Great to meet you, Huang. Which village are you from? I see. Well, could you bring us and my friends some beers, please? Oh, you're so nice. Smile. All right, come on over. Great. Then she came over with a big smile, set everything down. All right, Bao, here's your drinks. And I'm like, I guess she's not grumpy after all. Right. So I bring this up because it's important to note, just because you see someone who doesn't talk much, doesn't make much eye contact, and it seems cold on the surface here in Vietnam, it may be the opposite. It may be that they're trying to be warm and polite, and that's the most polite way that they can go about it. So to kind of wrap things up here a little bit, I just want to say, acknowledge that we're talking about two different worlds. And it's not true that America is more polite than Vietnam or Vietnam is more polite than America. They're just different in different worlds. And when you cross these worlds without thinking about that, yeah, you interpret people as overly friendly, too pushy, too rude, or don't have any idea what they're doing, waitering and waitressing, or something along those lines. And on the opposite, American people think Vietnamese people are loud, rude. They stamped out their cigarette on my carpet. What's wrong with them? Right. Right. So it makes for a very interesting and beautiful experience, when you're jumping back and forth. But my hope for everybody is you do so with an open mind. You know, come here and just look around, watch. How do people behave at a restaurant? How do they look when they're getting their photos taken? How do folks drink together? How do they talk to each other? When you show up at somebody's house for the first time, what does everyone else in the house do? Oh, take their shoes off. Okay. Wait for the sinmai. Okay. How do other people order food? Okay, let's do it like them. Oh, they're sharing. Well, I'm going to share too. This guy's talking with his mouth full. I guess that's okay. Right, right. And the trouble with preferences, and that's a good point, Kong, as the thing is what you prefer. The trouble, that's true, but the trouble with preferences is when you change countries, you don't get a choice. What I mean by that is, if I think about things an American way and prefer the American way, and then I go to Vietnam and I prefer the American way, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. We're doing it the Vietnamese way because we're physically in Vietnam. Similarly, if you're a Vietnamese person and you go to America, even if you prefer it the Vietnamese way, the share way, things on the floor way, community way, bring your own food to a place way, and you go to America, your preferences don't matter. It doesn't matter what you prefer. That's how it is. So you've got to follow suit with whatever country you're in, and I don't think you have a choice. You have to do it. There are some middle grounds in there. There's a few Vietnamese things I don't do and a few American things I don't do. And there's a few things I brought back and forth, certainly. But overall, again, have that open mind, look at, these two different worlds and acknowledge that when you're in Vietnam, they're actually being very polite in their own special way. When people laugh at you in Vietnam, mostly if it's like an awkward situation, they're trying to make you feel better, make light of the situation. Like if I mess up my Vietnamese, people will laugh. But it's just like, oh, you're kind of cute. Hey, let's not worry, buddy. Let's just have fun together about it. Huh? If I if I tipped over my bike right outside of a Quan, people would probably laugh on the inside, not because they're trying to be assholes, but because they're just like, oh, things happen, buddy. Don't you dare worry. That's kind of cute. Let's just laugh together, huh? Come on in and let me give you a beer. But if I interpret it as, there's a bunch of dicks, I just had a problem and I scratched the side of my bike and now everyone laughs at me. I hate these Vietnamese people. Have an open mind, huh? This can be the most wonderful country you've ever been to in your life. And it can be the worst and most difficult country you've ever been to in your life and frustrates you at every meal and every moment. It all comes down to knowing these two worlds and looking at it from both sides. So again, I hope you all have an open mind. I hope you all think about things, and I hope this live stream here can help explain things a little bit more and make it a little more clear, for all of y'all in the future. And I hope for all of y'all, if you come to Vietnam, you see it in the best way. You see the beautiful sides of it. You see everything is more convenient and better and more polite. And maybe like me in the long run, you feel yourself becoming Vietnamese. And in my own way, I feel like I'm a Vietnamese guy. Culturally speaking and everything, I like this world. It's where I want to be. And yes, like you said, Kuang, it depends on which world you want to live in. And Kuang, you said you learned a lot today. That's great, man. I'm explaining things, even though I'm talking about your country in Vietnam that you've lived in your whole life. A fish doesn't know it's wet. You don't know what compared to what. Once you compare these two, makes it quite interesting. But yeah, I'm a Vietnamese man now, and that's how it's going to stay. I love it here. But anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your time. Good luck with it all. Have that open mind. And hey, Blake, we'll do so in a few months. Looking forward to said adventure. That sounds terrific, Blake. I'm really delighted you're coming out here to Vietnam, and I'm really delighted you joined me for the live stream here. And I really hope, again, Blake, that I can tell you a bunch of stuff that heck, even Vietnamese people never acknowledged, and certainly the things you won't find online. But hopefully, I can again help you, Blake, have an experience that's more of the, the beautiful side. But anyway, good luck to all of y'all, and we'll see you next time, huh? Cheers, guys. Yep.